All right then, everyone. Monday morning as we approach the end of September with practical CBT. Quick practical workouts for your mental health. A fourth goalless draw of the season for Celtic on Saturday, and we aren't yet in October. We only had 3 0-0s last season, 2 the whole year before that. We only had 3 0-0s in the entire Ange Postecoglou era, and even in the COVID season, only 3 goalless draws, but 4 already this season. In fact, 7 of our last 8 matches have been goalless at half-time, which is a hell of a stat when you think about it. So, yeah, it's fair to say watching Celtic matches at the moment isn't particularly entertaining, and obviously we want to see Celtic win first and foremost, but also watching games we want to be entertained, and we're not really getting that at the moment. So yeah, I guess my big question going into a pretty big week this week after Saturday's draw is, will we be entertained? Having given it all that patter in the intro, I have to say that I don't actually think the performance on Saturday was particularly bad. We created enough chances to win that game. One chance would have been enough to win that game because Hibs offered like absolutely nothing in an attacking sense. They were really good defensively, I thought, with a number of the saves a goalkeeper made, a number of blocks that they got in at important moments, and obviously a bit of profligate, there's a word for you, wake you up, finishing from Celtic and the likes of Iheanacho and Kenny at the end. So we did create chances. I thought we controlled the match. I thought there genuinely were positive signs in there. So it's a bit of a kind of tough one. I'm not sure how you're feeling about it, trying to kind of weigh it up in your mind. There's a chance that you're on either extreme and you're either absolutely raging. If so, Steve will be on later in the week, so you can relate to him. Or maybe you're just like pretty happy with how things are going and you can see the positives, a bit like Scott was on the video yesterday. I am somewhere in the middle. I do feel that I'm kind of coasting a little bit as a Celtic fan at the moment, and I'm kind of questioning a little bit, right, what does this season look like? What will this season look like? It just kind of feels as if we're just finding that out at the moment, and we might not find out for some time. But we could just do with like a really big win, a big performance and a big victory in a big game just to really get us going. Because I didn't feel amazing again watching that game on Saturday, but I don't think the team played particularly badly. I'm really struggling here. Basically, if like Kelechi sticks away one of those chances, or Kenny or Engels or Maida or McGregor or Bernardo's shots from outside the box go in rather than straight at the goalkeeper, I think we're probably coming away from that game feeling all right about things. Good performance, narrow victory, but a good victory. But we didn't win the game, so we're kind of questioning things. I don't really think Saturday's game needs like the full post-mortem and all the talk of crisis and all of that. But I have seen that in a number of places, so people obviously feel that way. Personally, I just think Celtic are gradually getting there. That was a decent performance on Saturday. We've played some good stuff. We just need to be going on a winning run at this stage, because any setbacks are really halting us in our tracks at the moment. Just a couple of other wee points. I mean this literally. I thought Marcelo Sarachi had a pretty good game. I think there's bits of Greg Taylor in the way that he plays. He's not afraid to stick the ball in the box, and we've already seen that happen for a goal, the one that Maida scored at Rugby Park, and we saw, I think, a few chances being created from him doing that at the weekend. So I really liked his performance. I think he could be a really good alternative to Kieran Tierney. So happy with that, although it is early days. That was a kind of good point I was going to bring up. The negative was I just found the amount of daft free kicks that we gave away on Saturday really frustrating. Like the kind of ones when a Hibs player was going absolutely nowhere and one of our guys like clipped him in the back of the heels, or was just too forceful, shoving in the back, and giving away daft free kicks and daft areas where the Hibs player was not going anywhere. Cameron Carter-Vickers was guilty of it. Arnie Engels. There was someone at the end of the match as well that made me really frustrated. But I think my general point here, and I know that's an optimistic one, but that's just how I feel about things. I think there were some good things and good signs from that performance, like Ian Acho, as much as he should have scored. I think he linked the play well. He was involved, which is a thing we've all been asking for a striker to be. And it wasn't really the case with Ida at the start of the season, even Dyson at times. He was really involved. So I thought Sriracha, as I say, Sriracha and Tenekte really kind of forming something in that left-hand side, which I thought was really good. And I just hope that the mood in the dressing room is what like Callum McGregor and Brendan Rodgers were giving off after the game. Disappointed, of course, not to win the game, but let's look at the bigger picture. The performance gave us something to build on. And yeah, if we bring that same level of performance on Thursday, probably for me have to go up a notch because Braga are considerably better than Hibernian. But if we can do that and be a bit more clinical in the final third, then maybe that big win and performance is just around the corner. And I mentioned fouls a minute ago, but there was a pretty kind of mad statistic that I came across earlier on. And a bit of a weird one this. So Celtic committed 16 fouls throughout the match. I don't actually know in terms of like average of fouls whether that's high or low. It seems kind of high to me over the course of 90 minutes for one team to commit 16 fouls. But Hibs committed just one foul throughout the entire match, and it actually came in the 90th minute when Josh Mulligan took down Benji Nigren. So they went the first 89 minutes of the match without committing a single foul, which I do know is incredibly rare, especially when we had the vast majority of possession. I think we had around 75% of the ball. So for Hibs only to have the ball 25% of the time and us to commit 16 times as many fouls as them is an interesting one. I guess if you're looking at it, we were probably more aggressive in trying to win the ball back, so maybe more likely to commit fouls. And as I say, a lot of soft ones there, Hibs players going down easily. But also when we had the ball, Hibs were maybe not as inclined to come and win the ball back. They were more defensive. It was a very defensive performance from Hibs. But yeah, I thought that was a pretty wild statistic. I also thought the fact there was only 4 minutes added on at the end of the game, given that Hibs had been time wasting, throughout the second half and obviously the first half as well, was frustrating as well. Anyway, some fresh comments from Luke McCowan that have come out overnight, just giving a glimpse, I think, into how the Celtic dressing room are feeling about a couple of issues here. So, first one is the ongoing stuff between the Celtic support and the board, and I guess that's clearly feeding into what happens on a match day. And on Saturday, we had a 12-minute silent protest in the stands. There was a message put out from Celtic Fans Collective asking fans who want to take part in this not to make noise, basically, and certainly not to sing in the first 12 minutes of the match, signifying the Celtic support being the team's 12th man. And I wasn't at the game, so it's probably harder for me to comment. Certainly watching it on Celtic TV, it did seem pretty quiet at the start of the match for the first 12 minutes. The stadium then burst into life right on the 12-minute mark. I think it helped that we had probably our first real attack of the match at that stage as well, bang on that 12-minute mark. So the stadium seemed to get a bit of a boost at that stage, but I think as things went on after that, it all got kind of pretty subdued again. And the irony, I guess, of a silent protest at these Celtic League home games on a Saturday afternoon is that they tend to be pretty quiet, most of the stadium anyway. And I get the whole symbolism of the silence, Celtic fans being silent, equaling the silence that we're getting from the board. Like, I totally get that. And it probably makes a lot of sense when you put it in like that. I just have questions over, that was 12 minutes on Saturday. We're getting a 29-minute silence in a big European match against Braga on Thursday. I know the stadium's not going to be packed, and the kick-off time probably has a bit to do with that. But, is 29 minutes into the game, is that protest not going to fall a bit flat on its face or whatever? And then even longer, 32 minutes on Sunday. So, And I do think it probably goes against the whole back the team, sack the board message, if I'm totally honest as well. But as I say, it's a difficult situation, this. It's not perfect, and I think any sort of action is going to have its detractors. I just like thinking I'm kind of should be really buzzing for the game on Thursday night, and kind of turns me off a little bit knowing I'm going to turn it off and Celtic Park's going to be totally silent for the first, third of the game. And as I say, I totally get why these protests are happening, and I agree with them. Hopefully that's been clear over the last 6 weeks, however long. I think change is needed at Celtic, but I also just really want to get behind the team at the moment and really want to see the team firing forward. And I don't know if things like this do actually have an effect on the team. I mean, look, McCowan's comments here. Basically, I won't read them out, but he's basically saying, as you would expect, it's up to fans to express ourselves in whatever way we want. The team are focused on what happens on the pitch, and that's what you'd expect from him. He also said that it was strange for him because he could hear his teammates talking to him at the start of the game for the first 12 minutes, which is something that doesn't normally happen. So clearly that, like, the players are aware of what's going on, because, he's saying that he noticed some sort of a difference. So they're aware of this when they're in the heat of battle. So I don't know. I just wonder if something else could be done that could, make our feelings clear but not affect the team on the pitch in any way. And an obvious thing for me would be like a call out on boycotting merchandise, for example, because that's worth so much money to Celtic. We saw in the recent financial figures. And by the way, that I've kind of changed in that opinion recently, because after the transfer window shut and we got that statement, I was all out for like some sort of an actual boycott of matches and fans not going to games. And I'm aware I'm saying this from the other side of the world, but that's how I felt at that time. A few weeks on, I don't know, like I still feel as strongly, I think, about change needed at Celtic, but I really want to get behind the team as well. It's a difficult one, this. Just a bit of chat from Luke McCowan as well on Hearts, who are now 2 points ahead of us at the top of the Premiership. McCowan very much echoing the words of Callum McGregor. We had that on yesterday's video. Actually not far off word for word, to be honest. Asked if Hearts can win the league, McCowan said, "It's always the question. Last year it was Aberdeen. They started like a house on fire. Hearts as well have started like a house on fire, performing well. It's so early. There's so many games to play. We're not eyeballing Hearts and worrying about them or anything like that. It's more worrying about ourselves." To be honest, like I do agree with that. I'm not particularly worried about like Hearts running away from us. I know we go to Tynecastle in a few weeks, and ideally, you don't want to be going 5 points behind or more than that after that game, because that would give us, a bit of a chase to do. I think for me, I'm not really concerned about any other team in Scottish football, Hearts, Rangers, whoever else. It's more just about Celtic finding their way here. And as I've already said a few times in this video, I do just feel, let's all just get together and let's get this big performance and big victory that we need. I feel like it might just be that to kind of blow the cobwebs away. And potentially that comes on Thursday night. It's not going to be easy. Braga won their Europa League opener last week. They beat Feyenoord. They did also lose at home to Nacional yesterday in the Portuguese league. So obviously like their midweek exertions may have had something to do with that. But they're certainly, a beatable team for us on Thursday. And Thursday night could be a big game for us. It's a big week, this. Like, I know it might not feel like it because it's only the Europa League. And as I say, it's a weird kickoff on Thursday in the stadiums. I don't know what the crowd's going to be like. It's probably, if we get 40,000 for a game that's a 5:45 kickoff, I think would be really good given everything that's going on. It doesn't feel like a major week, but if Celtic can come away with 2 wins this week, it could really get us all going. So that has to be the challenge. 2 games at Celtic Park. Let's win them both. Let's get 2 good performances in there, and let's move on from there. And I'm going to move on from here doing this video because I'm not going to overstay my welcome. Probably already done that, but I'll chat to you all tomorrow.